Hey, what's up, everybody? So this patch actually had a little bit more in it than I thought it was going to. There's a lot here, believe it or not. And I'm going to go through a few different things. A lot of this is going to have to do with the new resistance changes for a lot of these NPCs, because a lot of it has changed in an extreme way that is going to make clearing mobs, depending on your class, a whole lot faster. I mean, crazy fast. And the Sorc changes aren't nearly as bad as I thought they were going to be. It's almost a nothing burger, but not quite. But in some ways, Sorc plays a lot better, and I'll show you what I mean. There was also one other thing that I guess I should mention. Upon starting up Dark and Darker for the first time after the patch, there was a new terms of service pop-up that came up that everyone had to agree to. Most people, like everybody else, tends to just click the checkbox and go on by it. But there was one important clause that needs to be brought to everyone's attention. That is this clause about gambling. They say in this clause that no matter whether it's real money or in-game currency, or if you're a streamer or not, no gambling in the game of any kind. If you are somebody that is streaming the game and running some type of gambling thing going on, like say taking golden keys or skull keys and putting people's names on a wheel to like spin the wheel for a winner takes all kind of situation, you can't do that anymore either. No real word on like channel points or whatever. I'm going to assume that you can still like, you know, do the whole channel point, like are they going to survive or not thing, because that really doesn't have anything to do with Dark and Darker specifically and is more of a Twitch thing. But when it comes to gambling with in-game currency or real money, there is no more gambling in Dark and Darker for fear that your account gets banned. All right? Okay, so first up, and I don't know if this is a bug or not, but if you notice this compared to what the menus had looked like up until this point, depending on what you were setting your brightness to, the UI is no longer being affected by the brightness setting in your options. So if you go into your video options and you have this brightness slider, you'll notice like the background, if you have a really good monitor, you'll notice that the background is really only changing by a couple of shades. Now, I don't know if this is a bug or not. In game, the brightness slider still works the way that it's supposed to, but in the menus and even the UI while you're in the game is going to be a lot more contrasted and a lot more saturated than what you've been used to seeing up until this point. But the actual rendered game itself still looks the same. So just kind of take that for what it is. Again, I don't know if that's a bug or not. We'll talk about the rank rewards, then we'll talk about the Sorc changes, and then we'll talk about the resistances stuff with mobs and gear, how the resistances and gear changed and how the stat changes affected it. Okay, so first up, we have the Demigod rewards. The first few seem like they're about the same, except now we're getting a gold coin bag instead of a large gold bag, which is what we were used to seeing for Wanderer rank. We were getting the large 1,000 gold bag, but now we're only getting the small 250 gold bag, which is a big change. For Wanderer, it is a Nightmare Skeleton crossbowman. I don't have the stats on the crossbowman as of yet, but that is the skin. There is a Bloodstone torch, as well as this Abyssal Grimoire. So this is a resting motion. It gets sucked into the ancient pages of the Abyssal Grimoire. Be cautious when reciting any of these unorthodox incantations. So it's probably going to be, you know, you're going to open up this crazy looking book and it's going to have a whole bunch of runes and like weird shit coming out of it, would be my guess. And then the Demigod reward is a kneel in reverence and offer your devotion to a true champion of the dungeons. So there is a Demigod reward of being able to, you know, make other people kneel in front of you, or maybe you're the one kneeling. I don't really know. A lot of the data that I have that has been pulled was pulled by guys that do this all the time for wiki updates and whatnot. The guys over at the wiki team, Virus primarily, my boy. He pulled this data, and we're not 100% sure that it's entirely accurate, but based on some super rudimentary testing where I went into like Frost, for instance, and just started hitting nightmare mobs with stuff that they were like supposedly weak to, the shit was dying instantly. Like, here, I'll show you. So assuming that this data is true, and again, grain of salt, but assuming that this data is true, I have some information for resistances for all of you. Oh, and before I show you that, speaking of resistances, there have been changes to things like Dark Plate and the Magic Resist armor that we primarily would run just for resistances. There were never any like fixed stats on any of them, but that has since changed. Just as a matter of example, things like this Dark Plate armor, they now have 3 Vigor for a base stat. I'm going to assume that this scales based on whether it's white all the way up up through to legendary. Dashing boots, these purple dashing boots now have a base agility of 3. Dark plate armor has, with the 3 rolls, obviously you can see 3 vigor here, and then resourcefulness, agility, max health, and then an ornate jazzerant, which had its, in all of these cases, the magic resist was reduced, but they were given in exchange some base stats. Basically, the idea here is that casters, because of the magic power decrease, everybody stacking up magic resist, especially in arena, was taking like F all for damage from magic wielders. You had to kind of go out of your way to do an awful lot more magic damage, and based on the patch notes, they reduced the magic resistance by about 30% and then did this instead. So now there's some base stats on a lot of these armor pieces, which will still make them desirable, usable, want to use them, but they won't have as much stacking magic resist as what you have seen in the past. So people that are running things like Frostlight and stacking a bunch of Frostlight so that they take less magic resist isn't going to have as much of an effect anymore. But in exchange, you will see some more base stat. That's basically it. Okay, and now on to the resistances for mobs specifically. Now, I'm not going to go through every little thing, but just to give you an idea of like what you can expect based on the damage type, who's the most resistant and who's the least resistant. Okay, so for lightning, we have living armor, treants, the summoned treant, the wisps, death skulls, frost giant, berserkers, harpies, ice harpies, regular harpies, mimics, wendigos, yetis. All of those take between 200 and 300 increased damage. All of the goblins, goblin archers, mages, axemen, warriors, and the like, they have 25% less damage received from lightning. Okay, so they're resistant to lightning. Frost sentinels and living statues take 50% reduced damage from lightning. Now on to fire. All of the frost mobs, okay, so like frost skeleton archers, frost imps, frozen ghosts, okay, all of those types of mobs take anywhere between 250 to 300% increased damage across the board. Giant spiders, ice spiders take 300% increased damage. The giant dragonflies take 300% increased damage from fire. And then we have things like spider mummies, death skulls, the frost giant zerkers, frost giant shielders, frost walkers, ice hounds, skelly champions, wendigos, yetis. All of those take 200% increased damage from fire. The frost wyvern also takes a 25% increase in damage from fire. Now, resistance stuff is going to be your goblins and your demons. So traditional demons, meaning like an inferno. So like the centaur demon and the demon berserker. And then all of the goblins have a reduction of damage of 25% from magic, from fire magic. The banshee, the cave troll, cyclops, frost sentinels, the summoned lava elementals, living armor, and the living statues all take a 50% reduction in damage from fire. So, for example, if you are a warlock that is used to spamming hellfire on things like the cave troll, cyclops, and banshee, it is going to take a lot longer now because hellfire is fire damage. So they have a 50% reduction in fire damage. Okay, that's what that means. It means hellfire is not going to work as effectively. Neither is like flame path, right? So if you're using those types of things trying to kill troll, it's going to take a longer amount of time. Okay, things that are weak to projectiles, projectile reduction. So like arrows, for instance, okay? So banshee, death beetle, death skulls, demon bats, giant dragonflies, giant bats, harpies, ice harpies, all have a 25% increase in damage taken from them. Resistances to projectiles are going to be things like the demon berserker, demon dog, dire wolf, earth elemental, frost giant, zerker, and shielder, frost imps, frost sentinels, skeleton archers, axemen, crossbowmen, footmen. All of those guys have a 15% reduction in damage from projectiles. So, and the list goes on and on. Mimics, even stuff that isn't in the game yet. Pirates, sea urchins, sea walkers. I mean, you basically name it. Slimes, centaur demons. Actually, if we go up to 20% reduced damage from projectiles. If you look at things like centaur demon, frost demon, ruins, golem, skeleton champion, wendigos, ghost king, yetis, skeleton warlord, Cyclops, Spectre takes a 30% reduction. Cyclops is a 30% reduction. Spectral Knight Elite is a 30% reduction. Cave Troll is a 40% reduction from projectiles, as is the Frost Wyvern being a 50% reduction, and the Banshee's Fog Missile, meaning that slow-moving big purple orb, is a 70% reduction from projectile damage. Okay, then we go on to evil magic reduction. So evil magic is things like the curses that warlocks have. So things like Curse of Pain and Power of Sacrifice. So in this case, this is only damage reduction. This is only damage reduced. They go basically from 25% reduction for just about everything. Demon Bat, Frost Demon, Frost Skelly, Archer, Crossbowman, Footman, Guardman, Halberder, Maceman, Skelly, Archer, Axeman, Crossbowman, Footman, Guardman. All of the skeletons have a reduction of 25% from evil magic damage. The zombies are the same. Cave Troll, Centaur Demon, Cyclops, Demon Zerker, Ghost King, the Summoned Hydra, the Lich, the Skelly Champ, Skelly Warlord, Wraith, and, well, the Wraith all the way up through. All of those have a reduction of 50% from evil damage. Okay, so now divine magical damage. Divine magical damage are things like Judgment, Holy Strike, okay, things like that. And like Alta Vista, you know, like the big room clear purification. That is divine damage, okay? So in this case, centaurs, so like demons, like Demon Bat, Demon Zerker, all of the demons and skeletons, all of the demons and undead take a 300% increase in damage from divine damage. Death Skulls, Mummies, Skelly Champs, the Spider Mummies, and the Wraith take 200% increase in damage, and then the Ghost King is 100% increase in damage, and the Lich is 25% increase in damage. Nothing has any resistances to divine damage. It's not reduced by anyone. Okay, now for dark magical damage. So the things that are least resistant to dark magic are Wisps. They take a 300% increase in dark damage. So think like Dark Bolt or like Dark Beam. The Cave Troll, Nightmare Elite, doesn't matter, normal, 200% increased damage from dark damage. So Meme Beam might be like the move if you're going to try and do damage to the Cave Troll while you're working away at him. Spectral Knight takes a 100% increase in damage from dark. The Cyclops takes a 25% increase in damage, as does Frost Wyvern, but resistances to damage are Goblins. So Goblins take a 25% decrease in damage from dark damage. All of the Goblins do. The Centaur Demon, the Demon Zerker, the Summoned Hydra, the Skeleton Champion, and Wraiths all take half damage. They are 50% reduced from dark damage. Okay, now spirit damage, and this is basically Druid with Dreamfire. So if you want to think about it that way, I'm not sure if Orb is spirit damage or not, but Dreamfire at least. So the Summoned Earth Elemental, a Summoned Earth Elemental, Frost Sentinels, Frost Walkers, Frozen Ghost Giant, Worms, Goblin, Archers, Goblin, Axemen, basically all Goblins and Kobolds, Kobold Archers and Axemens, the Summoned Lava Elemental, Living Armor, Living Statues, Ruins Golems, and Zombies all take 400% increased damage from Spirit. The Banshee takes a 100% increase, as does Spectral Knight, but the Summoned Treant is 50% resistant to Spirit damage. Okay, and then Air. Death Beetles, Death Skulls, Giant Bats, Giant Dragonflies, Harpies, Ice Harpies, Living Statues, all of those take 400% increased damage from air magic. So like Wind Blast and Vortex and stuff like that, 400% increased damage. The Frost Wyvern takes 200% increased damage from air, but resistance to air is the Giant Worm and the Summoned Treant are both half damage. Okay, now Arcane. Arcane magical reduction. So arcane damage is like Magic Missile. Really easy example. So all of the goblins, Goblin Archers, Axemans, Bola Slingers, Mages, Warriors, right? And then Wisps take 300% increased damage from Arcane, from Magic Missile. Death Skulls, Frost Sentinels, those take 200% increased damage. The Giant Centipede takes 100% increased damage. Nothing is resistant to Arcane. Nothing. Okay, now Light Magic. And I know that you guys are going to think that Light Magic is Cleric, but it's not. Cleric is Divine damage. Light Magic is Wizard with Zap. Specifically Zap, because I don't think there's any other Light Magic spells. I think Zap is pretty much it. Okay, so Light Magical reduction, so zapping stuff. Giant Bat, 400% increased damage. Death Beetle, Demon Bat, Giant Dragonfly, Summoned Hydras, Ice Kobold Archers, Ice Kobold Axemen, Living Statues, Wisps, Wraiths, All of those take 300% increased damage. Centaur, Demon, Cyclops, Death Skull, Demon Zerker, Frost Demon, Frozen Ghost, and Slimes all take 200% increased damage. Banshee, 100% increased damage from Zap, okay? Then we have Earth Magic. Earth Magic is like Earthquake, or in the case of Sorc, it would be Eruption for Earth Magic damage, or Earth Spike. So we have 400% increased damage for Giant Centipede, Giant Worm, Living Armor, Ruins Golem. All of those are 400%. 300% would be Summoned Earth Elemental, Frost Skelly, Archer, Footman, Guardman. All the Frost Skeletons are 300%, as is the Summoned Hydra. All of the normal skeletons are also 300% increase. Slime is also 300%, and then Cave Troll and Skeleton Warlord are 100% increased. Then we have Ice Magic. Ice Magic would be like Frozen Spear or like Frost Breath, or in the case of the Wizard, it would be like the Frost Bolt, the Ice Bolt. So that's ice damage. Ice magical damage. Okay, so Giant Worm, 400% increase in damage. Centaur, Demon, Death Beetle, Demon Bat, Zerker, all of the demons that you come across in Inferno. The Giant Centipede, the Summoned Lava Elemental, and Slimes are 300% increased damage. And then Death Skulls, 200%. Resistances to ice are things like Direwolf, Frostwalker, Frost Wolves, all of the Goblins, 25%, as well as Zombies, 25% resistant, so 25% less damage. There's a long list of stuff that is 50% resistant, most of which is like all of the Frost stuff. So Ice Hound, Frost Wyvern, Ice Kobold Archers and Axemen, the Frost Giants, and as well as Living Armor, Sabertooth, the Wendigo, and the Yeti are all 50% reduction in damage from ice. Okay, so that was kind of long, but that's basically the entire list for you guys. I'm sure that the wiki will be developing a reference document for all of you, but in the meantime, if you guys want to end up, referencing this video in case you aren't sure, but more or less you just kind of use logic here. In most cases, like Frost stuff hates fire, but is resistant to ice. Makes sense, right? If you notice, there's nothing here that says anything about like water damage though. So in most cases, everything is kind of just 1-to-1 in a lot of cases. But if it's something that's like very heavily like elemental based, or something that seems as though it should have some type of a weakness, like a zombie, for instance, those things have kind of sort of like logical resistances and weaknesses to those elements. All right. But obviously this video will be here for all of you if you need a reference. Thank you guys so much for coming and checking out this video. I'm sorry I was so completely wrong about the Sorc changes. Sorc really doesn't feel all that bad. There is like a little bit of a hitch in cast time, but it's something that you can grab if you have enough knowledge. So that way, if all you need is like, another 25% in cast speed worth of knowledge, and it seems like it does all right. There is like a little bit of a wind up though. You got like that 1/10 of a second. It's not instant. You do have to wind the spell up, but it's okay. It's okay. If you time it right, you can get it in the gap of time it takes for you to make the jump. While you're in the air, you're keeping your momentum. You can kind of warm the spell up and then combine it and let it fly. And it seems like it does all right. But time will tell. We'll see if it ends up being painful or not. But anyway, thank you guys so much for coming and checking out the video. Love you all. I appreciate your eyeballs. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.